Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. I know we are right around the corner from the football season, but really quickly, I wanted to discuss Iowa basketball, specifically Iowa men's basketball. And this is in lieu or on the shoulders of Iowa missing, I believe it was this Saturday is when the commitment was announced, of combo guard, four-star combo guard out of Utah, Kentrell Harmon. I actually already recorded this video earlier today, but I did it as like a car ride rant. I had to record 3 different clips, and you know, because I guess such a tightwad, I'm not willing to pay for the extra storage on my phone, and I was trying to combine the clips, and I just didn't have enough storage, and I just decided to just go ahead and re-record this. I think it's going to come out better anyways. It is kind of annoying when that happens, because that means that you know, obviously there was some time wasted there, but it is what it is. So let's talk about where Iowa basketball recruiting is. And I did another update when Iowa missed on Colin Rice. I don't know that I'm gonna like continuously do this. On every major missed target, but I do think it's important, at least for me, given the fact that you know, I'm a Iowa Hawkeye content creator. Some would, dare I say, some would even call it a contributor. I don't consider myself that, but I think it's important to really detail Ben McCollum's first offseason. And for me to kind of establish, you know, what I think and kind of analyze his wins and losses, both on the court and off the court. So let's start here. Let's just kind of give a broad overview of how Iowa's roster is what it is today. So obviously, Iowa is mostly comprised of former Drake players, and a lot of them would have landed at some solid destinations, as Drake was an NCAA tournament team, a second-round team, had they not chosen the Iowa Hawkeyes. The biggest one being Bennett Sturts, who is largely considered a potential lottery pick, definitely a first-round pick by a lot of publications. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he's got the skill. I mean, this is a really talented player. This is the most talented guard that Iowa has had, I would say, in the last 20 years. I mean, you know, probably the most talented guard Iowa has had, like guard, point guard or shooting guard primarily, would be maybe Ricky Davis. You know, you have Jordan Bohannon. There's different viewpoints on him. I don't consider him one of the best. I definitely consider him impactful, but I don't know that I would consider him one of the best guards. But he was very impactful and significant in his own right for the Iowa Hawkeyes. You know, you have Joe Wieskamp. I would consider him more of a small forward. You know, you had Peter Jock was a nice little player. Tony Perkins for a year. Josh Dix for a year. And Josh Dix may end up being an NBA quality player. And if that's the case, regardless of what he actually did in his time at Iowa, he might end up being, you know, up there as far as talented players. Like, if we're only looking at talent alone, he will, I think he will end up being up there, definitely top 5 as most talented guards to play at Iowa, you know, in the past 20-25 years. You could count Jeff Horner, who is a nice little college player. I think that would probably be about it. I mean, Iowa's had guys that were solid at times, but never great. Never first team All Big Ten outside of Peter Jock. Peter Jock would probably be the one that I would consider up there, especially if you add in his actual stats and impact at the University of Iowa. But again, just talking about it from a pure talent standpoint, Bennett Sturtz is, in my opinion, the most, and I don't think that this is a ludicrous opinion, most talented guard Iowa has had. And then, of course, Iowa landed some other guys that were impactful. While these guys definitely had other options, the Tavion Banks, the Cam Menyawus, the Bennett Sturtz, they would or did have other options. Bennett Sturtz committed to Iowa so quickly, it's hard to say that he had other options, but he definitely would have. I mean, he was considered a top 3, top 5 transfer portal option. But they would or did have other options. But still, I don't hold that in as much esteem as like landing a guy out of high school, or a recruiting win over the likes of Baylor, Illinois, maybe Missouri, like some strong regional Power 4 level recruits. Out of the high school ranks is going to be the biggest indicator of where the Iowa basketball program is at now, as far as recruiting wins and losses. Now, Iowa did land Brendan Housen, which was a good get. He was a non-Drake guy. They landed Alvaro Figueres, which was a very significant get. And most recently, out of the high school ranks, Iowa landed Tate Sage and Trevin Urick. And both of those are looking to be massive diamond in the rough gets. Two guys that were massively overlooked. Trevin Urick is a little bit more understandable because of the fact that he grew 5-6 inches so late in the process. So a lot of schools already had their commitments all said and done. And even if he was really talented, they didn't have a roster spot for him. So still, though, Ben McCollum offered him before he was the Iowa coach, saw his talent even before he became an Iowa head coach, and ultimately had the courage to still give him an offer once he got to Iowa. Now, they haven't played a game yet, and ultimately that's what's going to matter the most. And there's a difference between playing in games and how you look in practice. But so far, for both of them, the reports have been extremely positive. Extremely positive, especially with Tate Sage. And Tate Sage, that's going to, if he pans out, that's going to be a massive under the radar get for Ben McCollum, given the fact that this kid really didn't have any offers. And I don't know if I can't remember if he was committed elsewhere, but still, in the same light as Trevin Urick, having the confidence to offer this kid in your first year and utilize a full-blown scholarship on him is pretty significant. But both of these are not like massive recruiting wins. Now, Trevin Urick was flipped from Northern Iowa, which that's not nothing. Okay, it still required Ben McCollum to, convince Trevin Urick of his vision and show him what Ben McCollum basketball is all about and what it's going to look like at the University of Iowa. But still, not the biggest recruiting win, just purely from a other schools being involved and being like a highly rated guy. Another name that I think is worth contention is point guard out of Washington, D.C., Nick Lewis, who 247 Sports had him as a 4-star top 60 prospect who Iowa was going to get an official visit from, but he ended up committing to VCU. And again, that even though it was late in the process and Iowa was not able to build a relationship as much as they want, and VCU is definitely a decent basketball school, it still was kind of a bummer that Iowa was not yet in a place where they could land a guy like that this late in the process. And instead, he went to a VCU. It'd be one thing if he committed to like Oregon or, a Duke, but VCU still, even though they're a decent basketball school, still a very winnable recruiting battle. So that's a name that's worth consideration. But again, I'll give Ben McCollum some leeway with that, given the fact that it was so late in the process that Iowa and Ben McCollum specifically was going after him. The other name, of course, is Trey Thompson, the 6'8", 6'9", small forward, power forward, who had major offers. Tennessee, Purdue, out of Greenville, Tennessee. He reclassified, and I don't know if this is his reclassification rating, but 247 Sports has him as a 91. On 3, before the reclassification, had him as like a 93, 94, top 75 prospect. That it was a huge get, and his recruitment was only heating up as time went on, and he was getting more and more exposure. I mean, he had offers from Vanderbilt, Clemson, Purdue, Tennessee, some big offers. Okay, Alabama, Butler, Stanford, Villanova, UConn, Xavier, Virginia Tech, Kansas, Indiana. I mean, he had some major offers. Now, how many of those schools were still continuously recruiting him hard? It's hard to say. When he committed to Iowa, it sounded like it was basically down to Purdue, Tennessee, and Iowa. That's basically the story there. So that is probably the biggest recruiting win that Ben McCollum has had up until this point. So yes, 247 Sports has him as a 91 in the 91st in the reclassification 2025, graded as a 4-star. So that's probably the biggest win. Not probably, it is the biggest recruiting win. You could definitely make a case for Bennett Sturts, but I wouldn't say that was the biggest recruiting win just because of the relationship that was already built. But I do think it's worth noting that it still says a lot about Ben McCollum and his coaching staff that they were able to hold on to so many former players. It shows that they love playing for him. When they had an opportunity to go elsewhere, they still stuck it out with Ben McCollum and chose to follow him to the University of Iowa. And I do think that says a lot. Yes, it gave them an opportunity to play at the Big Ten level and, so on and so on. But still, it says a lot. But most recently, Iowa missed, and actually most recently is not necessarily completely accurate. But in the 2026 recruiting class, in which Trey Thompson reclassified to 2025, the main targets that Iowa has been in on has been 4-star small forward out of Spirit Lake, Jordan Kuhn, who decided to go to Creighton, Obviously Ben McCollum had the connection to Storm Lake. It wasn't enough. Honestly, there didn't seem to be that much traction with him in Iowa once that announcement was made. And I've said in a previous video, it is hard sometimes for recruits to make a switch when they already have a previous relationship with a previous coaching staff that has now left to the new coaching regime. It's hard to mentally make that switch. I'm sure sometimes there might be some like resentment or like some negative residue that is left there, whether it's warranted or not. It remains, and so it can be a hill or a mountain to climb for the new coaching staff. So that was what it was, and then Colin Rice out of Waukee Northwest, Iowa was long favored to land him. He's kind of a late riser. 247 Sports has him as a 4-star prospect, number 125 overall. There were crystal balls that were put in for Colin Rice to go to Iowa. He's in the backyard of the University of Iowa. It just made sense that he would go to Iowa. Culturally, schematically, I mean, the whole 9 yards. And Iowa got the official visit. He didn't commit. He ends up visiting Nebraska, where Price Sanford's at, who also went to Waukee Northwest, where Fred Hoiberg is at, and he commits to Nebraska. Again, an in-state guy, 6'7", and this was probably the one to me that was the bigger deal, because it was such a winnable get, and he's right in Iowa's backyard. It just absolutely fit what Iowa was looking for, or he fit rather, and it seemed like it was going to work out. So that was a big miss, Colin Rice. It's not over. Who knows what can happen once the season, starts taking place. If Iowa really starts playing good basketball, they have a, depending on the recruiting timeline and signing day and all that stuff, I'm sure there would still be time. But, if Iowa has some postseason success, some NCAA tournament success in year one, and, there's legitimate excitement around the program and in fan attendance. I mean, you never know. And who knows? There's no, in this day and age, there's no guarantee Fred Hoiberg will even be there next year. So there's many what ifs. But the most recent one is, just to finish this synopsis, is Iowa missing on Kaytrell Harmon, a 4-star combo guard, 6'3", out of Mount Pleasant, Utah, who committed to Creighton. That's 2 players Iowa has 3 if you count 4 if you count Owen Freeman and Josh Dix, but from the high school ranks 2, and Iowa, Creighton, and Washington were considered the favorites to land this 4-star top 60 combo guard. So here's my analysis and kind of what this means. Should we be concerned? If you look at everything in a vacuum, overall, the misses and the hits, I've kind of already talked about it a little bit. It's a mixed bag, and that's normal for recruiting. I would say the one highlight is, number one, Iowa did really well in the transfer portal, even outside of the Drake guys, and that's worth consideration, especially in this day and age. It shows that Ben McCollum knows basketball, and he's able to convince players that he knows basketball and get them to want to play for them. Because good players know good coaches. Game recognizes game. High school, landing Trey Thompson, big deal. Huge deal. The under the radar gets in Tate Sage and Trevin Urich, I think will prove to be awesome snags. We'll see how much or less it is, but I think overall it's going to far outweigh what their rankings were, their impact for the University of Iowa at this point. My main point that I want to make is simply this, that it's hard to. I want to give McCollum some leeway in year one, and we're not even done with the recruiting cycle yet. You know, there's still a lot of time between now and when these recruits will actually play for whatever school they're going to play for. But it's year one. You know, these recruits need to be able to see a proof of concept by actual results on the court that Ben McCollum is a good coach and he can create a good program. Yes, they saw it at Drake, but there's a difference between doing it at Drake and doing it at Iowa and in the Big Ten. I do think, based on the names that Iowa has missed on, yes, 2 of them are in-state prospects, but some other guys that they've missed on, and some names that are still on the board, high 3-star, 4-star guys. It is absolutely apparent that Ben McCollum and Iowa and the recruiting staff are able are getting their foot in the door of these high-level recruits. Whereas before, that was not always the case. You know, Fran McCaffrey could do it at different points. Iowa could do it at different points during the Fran McCaffrey era. You know, some more than others at different points. But in year one for Ben McCollum, it is just flat out apparent that these high-level recruits have respect and are willing to hear the Iowa coaching staff and Ben McCollum out and see what they can offer. And I do think that says a lot for year one. We're going to have to wait and see how things go. Yes, missing not landing one of the 2 in-state guys does hurt. It's not the end-all be-all, but it does hurt, and it's worth logging in our memory and utilizing in our analysis. But it's not the end-all be-all. I think we need to be patient and see how this shakes out. So far, there's been a lot of good, but there's been a few misses. You know, there's still some. You know, Iowa's not a perfect destination, even with the coaching staff. You know, even with Ben McCollum. You know, yes, there's been positive steps forward with seating arrangements at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Yes, there's been some steps forward with NIL, but there's still some work that has to be done. So I'm going to continue to keep you guys apprised. I'm not overly alarmed, to answer my own question. I don't think you guys should be either. Iowa has built a strong roster. They only need to land on 1 or 2 guys, maybe 3 guys in this recruiting cycle. And I think they're going to find their guys, high caliber guys, if not by the rankings, but under the radar guys that Ben McCollum is able to talent evaluate and identify. So I'll keep you guys apprised every step of the way. Like I said, year one, I really want to, outline and cover the misses and successes of Ben McCollum and the coaching staff in this new era of Iowa basketball. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. Last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy with all facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.